Good morning, good morning, good morning. I got waves. Oh, are you waving there? It's fine, I'll take the waves too. Good morning. Super excited to be here with you guys. My parents are in Hawaii, which all of us are like, oh, you're in Hawaii. But they texted me a couple days ago and said, hey, we're in Hawaii, can you pray? Because hurricanes are, currently hitting them. And I texted back and said, yes, can you pray? Our town is flooding. And it wasn't national news at that point. And my dad called and was like, what's going on? And walked him through. You guys can be praying for my family too. They're supposed to come home today. I doubt they're getting home the way they thought they were getting home. But also, as I'm talking to my dad, I got to share stories of the way people have already shown up and the way that God's church is already moving. I got to share that I'm literally in chats with some of the staff at Mercy Road and with some of the staff at Park Place, and we're talking about how can we join efforts, how can we make sure we're meeting the needs. Like, we don't have a physical building, and yet we get to give, and we got to share with some people, and people just poured out clothes and food and all these kinds of things in the recovery process already, and we're a couple days in. And so it's actually kind of humbling to be able to talk to my dad and go, you know what, the church shows up. And so we're going to keep showing up. We're going to keep showing up. We're going to keep showing up. And if you're someone that you are like, listen, but I need help, do not be afraid to raise your hand. I know it's tempting to be like, well, someone else needs more help. Okay, so do you. Like, we're going to do this one together because that's what the church does. We show up. We show up for one another. So thank you for all of you who have already helped. We're excited to see what God continues to do because God makes ways where there are no ways. And so we're just honored to be able to do this together as a community. Before we get started, I want to pray, just kind of center our hearts. I believe God is just stirring something in us this morning. And so I want to lean into that. So let's just take a moment and just chat with him. God, thank you. Thank you so much for who you are. Thank you so much for the way that you are just so incredibly present, even in difficult moments. Thank you for the fact that you bring us together and we gather, and even we live in a time where there's an online option in moments where maybe in person isn't possible. So God, we thank you that you are active and you are all around us right now. God, I ask that you would speak, that right now you would share something that we need to hear, and that we would be not just participants in hearing, but would lean into what it is that you have for us this morning. Would you speak to our hearts and our minds? In your name we pray. Amen. All right, so we are in a series. We are in week 2 of a series called Jesus Said, where we're talking about, wait for it, all the things Jesus said. Yay. Turns out we can't cover everything Jesus said, but we're going to take 4 big ideas that kind of help us picture what discipleship looks like, what it looks like to become a disciple of Jesus. And so last week we started and we talked about the cost of discipleship. Isn't that a really fun way to start? Like, it's going to cost us something to enter into this relationship with Jesus. Grace is free. Entrance into the kingdom of God is free. But once we get there, now we realize God's inviting us to participate, and he's going to pour into us as we pour out into the world. Well, today we're going to talk about rest. Take it in. You okay? It's one of those buzzwords, so I got to make sure you guys are okay before we keep going. We good? Okay, we're going to talk about rest. Okay, we're going to keep moving. I'm going to say it about 100,000 more times. And we tend to think of rest as like the opposite of the cost of discipleship, right? We think of like, here's the mission over here, you go do this. And then we think about rest over here, and they're 2 totally separate things. Do we kind of navigate our life that way? Absolutely we do. You cannot do both at the same time. Well, today we're going to look at some of Jesus's words, and in his words, we recognize that rest is actually part of the mission. Rest is part of what God is doing in and through and around you. It's not separate. They're not 2 different ideas, that they're actually supposed to be intertwined. And by trying to separate rest from mission, we do a disservice to how big and powerful God is, okay? And so today we're going to look at how these intertwine. But I thought, rather than just me telling you that they intertwine and you have to believe me, I thought I'd use some examples from everyday life to prove it. Are you ready for this? The first, this is a picture of a rest area. Anybody ever go on a road trip? Any big road trippers out there? You know what I hate more than anything? A road trip, okay? I hate them. Give me a plane, okay? It's a lot faster. Sitting, not my thing. But a rest stop, if you're on a road trip and you go to one of these rest stops, are you no longer on a road trip? No, you're still on the road trip. You just have to rest along the way. And you have to. Otherwise, you can't get gas or snacks or go pee. I know you're not supposed to say that at church. Okay, it's fine. Right? This is part of the journey or the adventure, right? We can see that rest is intertwined with the mission. Here's the next one. Those of you who maybe know a little bit about music know what that little symbol is. That's the rest sign. I even heard it as they were playing today. That's when the music, you don't have a note to play. If you played the entire time, it would be like, and the song would not make sense. You actually intentionally put rests so that you can breathe into the music. There is not a song that I know of that does not have at least one rest in the middle of that song. It's not like when you hit that rest, you go, oh, we're out of the song now. No, it's part of the song. It's intertwined into what you're doing. Now, the next one's a little silly. I understand it. Can we handle a little silly? This is a chicken. When it rests on the eggs, does it no longer do what it's supposed to do? No. Resting on the eggs is actually part of making baby chickens, or not baby chickens, and then we take them from them and then we eat them. It's a whole thing, okay? We can have that conversation a different time. But rest is part of the mission. They have to be intertwined. And then the last one is something that's near and dear to my heart. Anybody grow up playing soccer? Halftime. You know what they do at halftime? Whatever parent is in charge, they come out with like a plate of oranges, or if you were a really good parent, you brought frozen grapes because you loved us more. And you sit as the coach is going over gameplay and you're eating these snacks. Is the game done? No, it is part of the game. This is half the reason I played soccer was for the oranges and the grapes. It is part of, intertwined. And as much as some of this is a little silly, I think we can all kind of start to see this pattern that rest actually has to be part of it. You can't separate rest from what we do. Rest is innate within each step of the mission that is put before us. And so Jesus luckily gives us some words in Matthew chapter 11. And honestly, they're words I've said out loud many times on the stage. In Matthew chapter 11, starting in verse 28, it says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now, this is one of those passages, that first line, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." I find you can buy that on a pillow, on a mug, on wall decor for your house. And it's wonderful because who doesn't want that, right? Come here and you can have rest, right? It's that little room you have in your house. It's like on the wall and you sit with the pillow behind you and you have the mug and you're like, I have arrived. I have reached a pinnacle of rest. Like that's what we picture. But there's actually a whole lot more happening in those 3 verses that tell us that maybe the rest God invites us into is more than just sitting in a nook on a rocking chair with a cup of coffee. Don't get me wrong, that's also great. But he's inviting us into different styles and kinds of rest, different invitations that will shift how we show up in the mission that he has for us. And the first thing is he gives us rest to catch your breath. Rest to catch your breath. And this is the one we probably think about often, okay? During COVID, when I was working from home, I needed some way to differentiate, right, from work sitting on the couch versus Kelsey just sitting on the couch. And so I picked up a new hobby called running. And I wasn't a runner before unless it was chasing after some sports equipment, okay? I loved that kind of running, but just running for running's sake was wild. But I remember when I started, I'm gonna say for the first month, if not longer, I would get my shoes on at the end of my day. I'd make sure I'm all set up. I'd put my earbuds in, right? I'm picking a podcast or a sermon because that's what I run to, okay? Don't judge, okay? You can have your own preferences. I'd put it on and I'd get to the path that's right behind my house and I'd stand at the path and I think probably for 10 minutes I'm talking myself into running, okay? just staring at the path. I'm already down here. I might as well. I know I'll enjoy it eventually. I'm having this whole game. I'm pretending to stretch, but what I'm really doing is just trying to get myself to just move, okay? And then you start, and for the first solid month, if you leave this path, it like goes around a circle, and there's a little bridge, and then it comes around this other side, and then there's a split in the road. Why am I telling you this? Because that split in the road and I have spent a lot of time together. Okay, one route you go through the neighborhood, one route you go through the wilderness. It's a whole thing. But the reason I actually spent a lot of time in that split in the road isn't because I was deciding which way to go. It's because that's about how far I made it for the first month until I had one of these. I'm not kidding. It was like 20 to 30 seconds. Okay, that's how far I made it before I had to catch my breath. But what are we doing when we catch our breath, when we are buckled over like this? We're kind of doing a pulse. Am I okay? Is this pain normal pain or is this pain bad pain? Am I going to be able to breathe? I'm an asthmatic, so I'm also doing okay, is this asthma can't breathe or I haven't run in 15 years, can't breathe, right? Like I'm doing the check to make sure I'm okay while trying to catch my breath. That also happens in our faith. Whereas we are journeying with God, and I don't know how long you've been journeying with God. Sometimes you'll make it about 30 seconds into your run with Jesus. Sometimes you can make it a couple miles into it, but at some point you have to stop and go, okay, God, am I okay? Is this normal pain that I'm experiencing in my faith, or is there something wrong? And you do a check in with Jesus, and he kind of helps you monitor and gives you a moment to catch your breath. That's the first verse that we just read. Let me read it to us again. It says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That one is that simple. You're tired? Go to Jesus. Are you weary? Go to Jesus. Have you been running a marathon? Go to Jesus. He's going to help you catch your breath. He's going to help you do an inventory. Am I broken? Is this normal? God, am I okay? And sometimes this comes after a season in your faith or in your life where things are really difficult and you just need a moment to just stop and just cease from what you're doing. That's what rest means, is to cease from what you're doing. And you just need space to just take it in for a second because the world is demanding a lot from you. And if we're honest, the world is always going to demand a lot from you. So this is a moment to go, okay, I'm here. You said if I come to you, you will provide rest. What's interesting about this verse, though, is the word rest is actually a verb. It doesn't read that way in English, right? In English, it looks like a package that he ties and hands to you. And he's like, here's a gift of rest that I hand you that you can just intake and you're good. But it's actually a verb where he's actually creating permission or creating circumstance so that you can get rested. It's not actually just something that you get. It's the way that he crafts it around you and wants to build it for you. And here's the kicker. God has always been crafting rest. Like from the very beginning, that has been God's job, is to craft rest. In fact, if you go to Genesis chapter 2, well, all of chapter 1, God is at work. He's making the birds and the seas and the light and the dark and the land and all the matter. And then we get to chapter 2. And he says, "Thus the heavens and earth were created in all their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done." This passage is one of those passages that I read for a long time and just didn't think about it. Was Jesus tired or was God tired and need a day off? No. Like, God doesn't get tired, okay? God doesn't need a nap or a vacation. God isn't like, I could really use a snooze real quickly. A good solid 8 hours will do me a lot of good. So he created for 6 days. He built and designed and created. So why on the seventh day does he rest if he's not tired? Well, there's two things happening. One, he is inventing rest. If all the other 6 days he's creating and inventing something, why would we think the seventh day he's not? He's inventing rest. He's creating something for us. Did you hear that? He actually created it for us to use. And the second thing that he's doing is he's modeling for us what it looks like to live mission and rest intertwined. He's modeling for us because he knows we will not do it on our own, because we tend to be workaholics and really struggle with control issues, and that's been true throughout time. And so he's modeling ceasing from our work. So much so that he actually stamps that seventh day as holy, set apart. Like rest was designed for us, invented around us to give us something that we need. And he made it so important that he called it holy. He wasn't saying, hey, if you work really hard, you'll earn your seventh day. No, you know what happens? Regardless of what you did all week long, the seventh day still happens. So he invents and stamps it and seals it. And we call this Sabbath. And Sabbath is God's gift to us. And if I'm honest with you, we're not very good at Sabbath in our culture. We fill our calendars. It is something that until a few years ago, I was terrible at. I used to go around at work and tell everyone, yeah, it's been 28 days since my last day off. I'm not sure what I was bragging about. I was missing what God invented for me, what God fashioned for me. I was missing what he intended for my heart and my soul. And can I tell you, those 28 days were probably an indication that I was not okay, and I was not. Over the last couple of years, I have taken Sabbath as a priority. And for me, my Sabbath is on Friday, right? I work at a church, so my weekend looks a little different than other people's. I don't know if you guys have figured that out. I'm working. Yeah, okay, cool. So on Fridays, on my calendar, it says, do not touch. And there are very, very, very few things that I will touch that with. And it's almost exclusively, well, I'm at camp and I can't just be like, sorry, students, drive yourself home. Okay, I get it. And can I tell you the difference it's made in my faith life? You see, if they're supposed to be intertwined, if Sabbath is like the rest stop on a road trip, it actually makes the road trip more fun. I'm more effective when I get back in it because I've rested. Like God designed that and crafted that from the very beginning of time. And he intended it for us to be a gift for us. And yet we have to protect it, because things that are holy often get shoved to the side so that we can fill with more stuff. So let's protect it. Let's use what gift God has given to us. But what I love is that Jesus now in Matthew, thousands of years later, comes onto the scene and says, hey, remember that thing we invented all the way back here? I'm going to yes and to that. Okay, yes, take your Sabbath and come to me, all who are weary and burdened. Did he put a time frame on that? Was it on a specific day? It actually isn't dependent on time at all. Okay, you just had a Sabbath on Friday. Guess what? You wake up Saturday and you're tired and you're weary. Guess what? You can still come to Jesus. Jesus yes anded. He said, yes, protect the holiness, protect the Sabbath, protect your rest, go on a vacation. But also know that on Monday when you're at work and you're between meetings and you're really tired, you can come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. There's not a time frame or a gap in there. He's just going to be there with you as you do it. It's something that I've started to implement. I've talked to some people about it, like between meetings, I take a moment and I go, God, I'm tired. Help me. It's almost like one of these moments, right? Just got to catch my breath. I don't really want to go into another meeting. I love meetings, okay? Don't get me wrong, but I don't really want to go into another meeting. Or God, I'm about to go into some relational conflict and I don't really want to go into that right now. I'm tired and I'm weary. Help. And you do a pulse check with Jesus. Jesus is like, here, I'm going to give you rest. And sometimes he's like, I know you don't want to do it. I'm going to get you enough energy to sustain you through this meeting. Or I'm going to get you enough energy to sustain you in this conversation or in this challenge or this frustration. Sometimes that moment is just a way to catch your breath so he can go, okay, I got you. Now go back in. Sometimes what he does is he goes, yeah, you're not okay. That pain isn't normal. You need to go home. And he stops you from going into a conversation you should not be in because you are not ready to be in it. But we don't rest long enough, we don't pause long enough, we don't cease from our work long enough to do a heart check and say, hey, God, am I ready for this moment? Or, hey, God, do I need to back away? Because when we do this moment where we catch our breath with Jesus because we're tired and we're weary and the work that he has us doing can sometimes be difficult, when we catch our breath for just a moment, he gets to be the one that helps provide what we need. And sometimes what we need is to stop. And he goes, hey, you're out, go sit. I'm gonna tap you out real quickly. Don't you wish there are conversations or moments in your life where you went into something you should not have gone into because you were too tired and too weary and you said a bunch of things you wish you didn't say? Been there. Then I had to go back and apologize. You see, if we stop and we come to him, he's gonna be there with us. He's gonna do the check with us. He's gonna tell you which route to take as you continue moving forward. Because he is the God who can sustain you. He is the God who can provide what you need. He is the God who can give you the energy to take on that meeting or take on that conversation. He's also the God that can tell you, you're good, go home. You're better used at home. You're done. But it means we have to come to him. There's something important about that. And we do this on regular rhythms, right? We need to do this on weekends. We need to do this on vacation. It's part of the reason we send our students to camp is because we believe camp kind of forces you out of your regular rhythms and you rest and you just get a pulse with Jesus. Where am I? How am I doing? Well, one of the things we're working on, just a little sneak peek behind the curtain, we're working on some things specifically for the men in this church and specifically for the women in this church. And we just kind of solidified something for our ladies. And so I'm just going to share with you. We know, ladies, sometimes we need to retreat. And so we're going to do a women's retreat in October. Just a day. We're going to get away right here in town. Sounds weird that we're going to get away right here in town, but that's how cool God is. And we're going to spend time retreating and pausing and ceasing from our work. We're going to get away from the regular chaos of our life and just say, okay, God, what do I need to do? We're going to open signups in a few weeks, but wanted to give you just a peek behind. Even if you text retreat to 40727, when it does open, we'll send you the link. You can have like insider trading information. You're welcome, okay? But we believe that this is something we do. And so we're working on building rhythms of rest as a church, rhythms and space for us to go, okay, God, am I okay? Do I need to sit out? Do I need a moment? And catch our breath. Because part of the rest God invites us into from the very beginning, all the way back in Genesis, is to just breathe. But that's not the only kind of rest. That's the kind of rest we think about, but if rest really is intertwined with mission, we have to start to see rest as a little bit bigger than just the naps and the sitting in the nook and the moments on vacation, all those kinds of things. One of the things he does is he also gives us rest to grow. He gives us rest to grow. His goal isn't just that our rest is sitting and quietly, but is actually to encourage us to continue moving forward and to grow in who we are and how we show up in the world and how we live. And so, I thought I would share a little bit. I've talked about it before. I have 3 younger brothers. I used to say little brothers. They're not little, but I want to show you what I mean by that, okay? And so I have a couple pictures just to personify how adorable my brothers are. This first picture is me and my 3 younger brothers at my college graduation, okay? Everyone, aw, you guys should have done that already. It's okay. You get a pass. Okay, the one that's taller than me right there, that's Kevin. He's 2 years younger than me. And the 2 that are about my height, if not a little shorter, and I'm going to hold them to that for the rest of their life. Those are my 2 youngest brothers, Caleb and Kyle. Well, 2 years later, Kevin graduates from college, and this happens. Guys, it was 2 years. What happened? Okay, aren't they adorable though? Aww, Kevin's so handsome, he graduated, so proud of him. Then a year and a half ago, this is what our family looks like now. Guys, there's 2 more babies too. Time is great, okay? I love it, little ones. But do you see how tall they are? I'm not short, I'm not a short person. But next to them, I look very, very tiny, okay? I am very, very short in this picture. Not to mention they married women They added a couple ladies to our life, and they're taller than me, okay? It was cruel, okay? But do you know how this happened? Do you know how they grew? They ate, they slept, they ate, they slept, they ate, they slept, right? You guys know this. We know this. We watch babies. The first year of their life, it feels like they're eating and sleeping constantly and then crying a little bit. Okay, that also happens when they're teenagers. Then all of a sudden we gauge that our kids are about to grow because they're sleeping a lot more. Ugh, they must be hitting a growth spurt. I've literally heard those words come out of our mouths. Isn't it interesting that we can look at my brothers and go, yeah, like I can picture Kevin. He was the only one that I was there for all the growing years, okay? I can picture Kevin in his high school years. When he entered high school, he was one of the shortest kids in the class. By the end of high school, he's one of the tallest kids in the class. And I remember thinking, Kevin sleeps a lot. Not nearly as much as I do. My mom might beg to differ. We can talk to her about it a different day. But here's the thing. He was growing, and the way he was growing was his own unique pace, and so he needed a certain amount of rest in order to grow. He needed fuel, and he needed rest. That is true for us in our spiritual life with Jesus. That is true for us in living out the mission and the call on our lives. We need rest, and we need fuel. We are okay with that in kids and in babies, but it's still true for us because here's the thing, we're all still growing. Okay, I had a professor who used to say, if you're not growing, you're dying. That's it. That's the extent. So in our faith, you are either growing or you are dying in your faith. And so we want to become people that grow, which means we are going to need some rest. It's non-negotiable. That's how it happens. And so we look at that next verse in Matthew chapter 11, verse 29, it says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke upon you and learn from me. We're intended to learn from Jesus. But we get this illustration in the middle of that, right? It's a yoke. Now, last week I gave away that maybe I don't have a ton of farming experience, okay? So I for sure read yoke as an egg yolk, okay? And if you did too, we're in good company. We're together in this. Those of you that have a little bit of farming experience know there's more to a yolk than the best part of an egg that, depending on what time in history, you're either supposed to eat them or not eat them based on your cholesterol. Who knows, okay? They're delicious, okay? But a yoke that he's actually talking about looks a little bit like this. It's this wooden bar that takes two animals and kind of ties them together. And a yoke is used often, most often with like oxen. And the idea is you put it around two oxen and they are able to then plow lines in your field so that you can plant crops. The reason you tie two together with this yoke is this idea that one, with two of them, they have less weight to carry. Two, they're a little bit more powerful, right? Three, if one of them starts to swerve, the other one's like, whoa, where are you going, buddy? Let's keep going this direction. But one of the cool things about a yoke is that it's actually most often used to teach a young up-and-coming oxen, I'm sure there's a word for that, I don't know, okay, how to do what they need to do. And so they would tie a veteran oxen up to one that's up-and-coming, a young oxen. And that would be the way that you would teach this young animal how to live this out, how to pace, how to make the straight line, how to do the work they were being asked to do. So when Jesus says, take my yoke upon you, he's pointing to that. He's pointing to this wooden thing that is going to go over his shoulders and onto our shoulders. Guys, this is crazy. This is crazy. He's like, hey, I want you to tether to me, and I'm going to carry a bulk of the weight, and I'm going to pace you and teach you how to live and teach you how to step and teach you how to walk and teach us how to keep moving forward. And when you get out of line, you're going to be connected to me, and I'm going to help guide you. And so he's telling this story of this invitation to yoke to Jesus. Guys, that's the coolest thing ever. Why? Because up until this moment, the religious leaders had a little bit of a different perspective on how to do this. That's not how it used to be done. In fact, later in the book of Matthew, Jesus talks about it in Matthew 23, verse 3. He's talking about the religious leaders or the Pharisees. He says, "So you must be careful to do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them." You see, this is the culture that Jesus entered into, is these religious leaders are looking at everybody else, and everybody's just trying to figure out how to live out their faith journey. They're just trying to figure out how to walk and plow, right? They're just trying to figure out how to do what God has asked them to do. And the religious leaders would stand above them going, "Do more, try harder." There were 613 laws, and they would go around and go, "Hey, I'm gonna add an extra 20, 30, 40 laws. I'm gonna add more to you. Do more." And they just watched. That's how the religious leaders did it. They waited for all of this heavy load to just crush people because it was not something you could carry on your own. So when Jesus says, "Hey, yoke to me, hey, go ahead and put this yoke over you," this is revolutionary because Jesus is saying, I'm gonna carry some of the weight. I'm not inviting you into a relationship with me and then going, "Do more, try harder, be better." I'm inviting you to take this on so that I can show you how to pace. So I can show you how to pursue what I have for you, so that I can help you carry things you can't carry on your own. This is crazy. And that invitation into that, he also includes his heartbeat. He says, "Listen, I am gentle and I'm humble in heart," which means he's willing to get on our level at our pace and meet us where we are and say, "Okay, let's do this together. I got you." Gosh, doesn't that already feel a little bit more restful than "do more, try harder, be better"? It's an invitation into something that I'm pacing with Jesus. I can just walk with him. And sometimes he's gonna be like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you a little bit more weight. I'm gonna have you carry a little bit more because it's gonna grow your muscles and help you grow in strength so that you can do more." So he's gonna start giving you a little bit more. Sometimes there's gonna be seasons of your life where he's like, "Hey, we're about to speed this up for a little bit. We're on like autos, like we're gonna go, okay?" Right? Like I even think about this season in Anderson and in our surrounding communities. We're gonna have to speed up what we are able to do and how we show up for people. And so there's seasons we speed up and we chase and we go. And Jesus is like, "Match my pace with me, I got it." And then he's gonna be like, "Okay, that was good, we're gonna slow down. I'm gonna need us just to walk for a little bit." But he's not just telling us how to live, he's gentle and humble, and he's meeting us where we are, and he's pacing it out for us, and he has something specifically for you. It's so tempting to be like, "Ugh, I'm just so far behind in my faith. I'm not doing the right things. I'm not saying the right things. I'm never gonna be good enough." But that's because we keep looking at how other people are being paced by Jesus. But Jesus has a pace for you. It's the same as when I looked at Kevin and went, "Why is he sleeping so much?" Well, he was about to grow like 8 inches. I only needed to grow like 2. The needs are different. The way Jesus meets you is with you. Like he has a yoke with you, a relationship with you. He knows what's going on in your world. And he's like, "Let me pace this out for you so that as we are going, you are getting the rest you need." But here's the thing that's important to note about a yoke. They don't put a yoke on a couple of animals and then just let them hang out in the barn. You're invited to participate in something. You're invited to move forward, which means he's growing your muscles. He's growing your stamina. He's growing your skills. He's teaching you how to live out your faith. And all you have to do is say, "Okay, I'm gonna yoke to him." What does that look like? Talk to him. What does that look like? Read scripture and get to know his heartbeat. I've been in the Psalms lately, and the Psalms will get you to know Jesus real fast because you get to know all the big and all the little and all the things in between. Read some Psalms. You want to know what it looks like? Talk to some people who have been yoked to Jesus for a lot longer and say, "Hey, what do you do to walk out your faith?" And then hang out with him. "God, I'm tired. I'm weary." And he will give us rest. But he has to be yoked to you for him to slow you down sometimes and go, okay, you're good. Take a breath. We're going to pause for a second, and then we're going to keep moving. Then we keep moving. And he paces, gives us the rhythm. He helps us figure out how to take those next steps. He sustains us. So he's here to give us momentary rest. He's here to help us grow. But here's the last one, and I think this one is super important. He also gives us rest to show people who Jesus is. One of our mission statement here is that we exist to show people who Jesus is. That's our whole goal as a church. We just want to show people who Jesus is. Not just like, here's Jesus in a painting. Like, we want to show in the way we live, and we want to show people who Jesus is. Well, rest actually teaches people who Jesus is because it's part of the intertwining. It's the mission. It's part of what he's doing. And so rest becomes super important. And so when we look at verse 30, it says, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now, again, we already talked about yoke, right? If your yoke is easy, it doesn't mean life is easy. It actually, the word easy is more closely translated to manageable. That doesn't feel the same, does it? I know why we changed it to easy, okay? So, but here's the thing. The only reason it's manageable is because it's his yoke. He's carrying most of the weight. If you want to carry all the weight on your own, you can bet that it will not be manageable. It will not be easy. It will not be simple. He's not saying your life will be easy. He's saying because I'm carrying the other side of that yoke, it's going to be manageable. You're going to make it through. I got you. Does not mean life will be easy. I need that to be super clear. And even the second part of that the burden is light. It's not like, well, I love Jesus, I have no burdens anymore. Anybody that follows Jesus for a couple days realizes that's probably not true. In fact, I believe when we say yes to Jesus, the burden on our heart grows because we so desperately want people to experience Jesus. And that can sit and you just, what can I do to help people experience Jesus? Because I want them to know this guy that has changed my life and saved my life. So when he says, my burden is light, it's referencing back to those religious leaders where they were just taking these weights and just dropping it on people. You got to be perfect in order to enter into the kingdom. If not, you're never going to get there. And they just kept piling and piling and piling, ultimately leading to a whole lot of shame. Kingdom built on shame, right? Well, Jesus says, hey, I actually have made the kingdom for you. All you have to do is say yes. And then together we're going to do the rest. That's what he means by the burden is light. He's not expecting perfection. He's not expecting you to have all the things together. What he's saying is, hey, I just want you to join me and we're going to do this together. So it's not easy and light because the world is easy and light. We know that's not true. The world is incredibly difficult. I think this week we've seen that. Things happen. The world happens. And some of that is our own doing, right? We sin and we mess up and we kind of put our foot in our mouth or have to pay some consequences. Some of it is because the world is fractured and broken and sin exists in the world, and so we pay the price for that. Some of it is someone else has caused harm to you. We know the world is difficult. Jesus is not going, hey, if you hang out with me, it's all going to be simple. He's saying, hey, if you hang out with me, you're going to make it through. You're going to get there because I'm going to get you there. Not on your own strength, not on your own abilities. I'm going to get you there. So again, Jesus, yes, it's hard, and we're going to make it through. Jesus is great at the yes, and. Well, there's this guy named Paul who we've talked about a couple times over the last few weeks. And Paul is writing this letter to this church in Corinth. And honestly, in his letter to the church in Corinth, he tells the story of his journey. And he's like, hey, I've been whipped a bunch of times. I have been shipwrecked a bunch of times. I have been chased out of cities, and just starts listing. His life has not been easy. It's been manageable with Jesus, but it has not been easy. And so the church in Corinth is starting to have some concern. Like, are you good, dude? And so this is his words to them. He says, therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an external glory that far outweighs them all. External, that says eternal. That's a big difference, actually, y'all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. You see, Paul is like, hey, I'm tethered to Jesus. Like, I'm doing this thing with him, and I get it. My life is difficult, and I've experienced pain, and I've experienced loss at the hands of others, at the hands of nature, at my own sin. I've experienced difficulties, and yet I am yoked to Jesus. And so as he is pacing me and giving me moments of rest, and we know he has moments of rest. Like Paul has moments where he ceases and he hangs out with some people. He also has moments where he has to go and learn and stretch his muscles and gain information. We know all of this. And yet here in this moment, he's going, listen, life is hard and the glory of God is being shared because of what I'm enduring. The glory of God is being shown to the world because I'm willing to each morning say, hey, day by day, I'm going to be renewed. This is difficult. And each morning, day by day, I'm being renewed. This is difficult. Yes, and day by day, I'm being renewed. We don't have to pretend things aren't hard. But instead of letting the hard win, at the end of it, we say, and Jesus is doing something, and I am tethered to him. I am yoked to him, and so I know this is manageable. I know I can endure this because I have Jesus on my side, and he's carrying a little extra weight because I can't carry it by myself. I can't do this all on my own. I know that he is holding this up. And so Paul literally says, listen, I get it. I look like I'm not doing so well because I've endured some things, but you know what? People are experiencing Jesus. Not just because of what he does, not just because of how he lives out his mission, but also in the fact that he goes, yeah, things are hard. And guess what? Let me tell you about Jesus. And he tells his story with joy. He tells his story saying, look at what God is doing in my life. For him, he goes, yeah, part of the reason it can be light, the burden can be light, is because while this is really painful now, it's nothing in comparison to what I'm going to get in eternity with Jesus. He goes, nothing. So part of the reason we can walk through the hardships we have and we can experience rest in the middle of it is because we have a Jesus who's holding up most of that weight and making it manageable. And each morning he's giving us the rest we need to keep showing up, to keep showing up, to keep showing up. And I know it's hard. And he's doing something. You know what happens when we do that? People start to look at how we live and they start to go, why are you so happy? And you may know the word that we actually use is joy because happiness is a response to a situation. Joy is a choice we have in the middle of it. And so you may go, hey, I have joy because I know Jesus is renewing me day by day by day. Because rest and mission are intertwined. And pretty soon, just how you carry yourself in the way you live is showing people who Jesus is. And part of that is the renewing, the resting, the taking a break. It's countercultural. It's revolutionary for our world, and yet it shows Jesus to the world. Why? Because Jesus, all the way back in Genesis 2, was there helping create rest, and he's inviting us into rest in moments, and he's inviting us to grow, and he's inviting us into more and more and more along the way. I had this friend who, she didn't grow up really knowing Jesus. She knew a little bit about Jesus here and there. And really what she knew about Jesus was the burdens, the rules. Church, you had to do this and do this and do this. And that's kind of what she knew about Jesus, was the burdens, right? That's what the religious leaders were doing. They were pouring that out, and that's what she knew. And then at some point, for some reason, she ended up going on a mission trip and meeting Jesus for real. Like this guy who actually wants to carry the weight of the world with her, and so she does not have to do it all, and life became more manageable. And as she started to pace her life with Jesus, he invited her into missions overseas. And so she did that. She went, and the pace was fast for a while. I don't know if you know, but to get to another country is a lot of work. And she gets to this other country, and she starts living out this mission that God has on her life, and she's pacing with him. Then she gets married and has kids, and she's pacing with him. She's modeling it for her kids. This is what it looks like to pace with Jesus. And she's doing incredible things. The ministry she's a part of is growing. And then she gets the diagnosis of cancer because life happens. And I remember, because I'm on Facebook, I'm not on Facebook. If you have sent me a friend request, I'm never saying yes because I'm never on it. But at the time, I was on Facebook. And I remember watching her journey, and that you could join one of the groups where she would give her prayer requests and her updates. And I remember day by day by day, she would give us an update, and she would say, honestly, hey, this day has been really hard. Here's how you can pray for me. And can I tell you what Jesus did? And I just remember being so in awe of this woman who wasn't waiting for some really good vacation to experience rest, wasn't waiting for situations to make sense or be good or be healthy or whole. She just lived life yoked to Jesus. And when things got hard, she couldn't help but slow down her pace a little. And Jesus honored that, gave her a new pace. And then she got to share with the world that even though her body was failing, her Jesus was not. And I remember being so encouraged, and the people in the town there were so encouraged. People came to know Jesus through her story and through her faith and through her light and through her joy. And we got to witness God in the middle of all of this because he was giving her rest and mission simultaneously. Just because she got a diagnosis didn't mean the mission went away. Just because she had to take a detour on the road doesn't mean it went away. It means God's saying, hey, I'm going to give you rest, and I'm going to give you mission, and I'm going to invite you into something. But they're going to happen together. So use whatever you've got in your world and say, hey, God, I'm going to give you glory because I know it's manageable because I'm tethered to Jesus. I know it's manageable, and you will give me rest, and you will slow my pace, and you will give me exactly what I need. And every once in a while, I'm going to have to catch my breath, and you're going to have me take a seat, and that's okay. And then we're going to get back up, and we're going to live out the mission. And as hardships come, and they will come, we find the joy of being renewed day by day because we're tethered to a Jesus who loves us. Gosh, he just loves us. That's the whole thing. Is he just wants to do it with us. He wants to give you what you need to be sustained. And he wants to use your story to share with the world about his glory so that people will come to experience his goodness. But we have to start thinking about rest and mission as being intertwined and let Jesus set the pace. But it means we have to practice. In fact, that's what I'm going to do right now. Hopefully, as you walked in, you got a bookmark. And on that bookmark is the word Selah. Selah is this word that is used in the Psalms 71 times. At the end of a little section of verses, it would say Selah. And what that means literally is pause. What it means beyond that is actually breathe or take a breath or take it in. Saying, hey, you just read something that's really important, take a breath. And so we've turned Selah into an opportunity that you can take this, put it in your Bible, and after you read scripture, you pull this out and you're gonna practice Selah. The first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna stop. I know it's gonna be really tempting after you read or after you do something to just go do the next task on your list, but part of rest is ceasing. So you're gonna stop. And then you're gonna exhale. Part of that's literal. I think there's something that happens when we go, but part of it is saying, hey, I'm gonna let go of some things that are in my way right now. I'm gonna breathe out some of the distractions and the frustrations, and I'm just gonna be present without them. And then you're gonna look around you, and you're gonna look at the people and at the nature and at your home and at your school and at whatever you're doing, and you're gonna look for evidence of God all around you right there. I mean it. You're just gonna look and be like, I can see God in that. How cool is that? And then you're gonna ask, God, will you reveal yourself to me today? Will you give me rest? Will you give me space? And then this is the one that's probably the hardest one. You're gonna hear from him. We're pretty good at talking too. We have to grow in our practice of listening from. So then you're gonna hear him. So right now you have that bookmark hopefully in your hand. If not, you can get one on your way out. I'm gonna read the passage one more time that we've read a couple times today. And then they're gonna play over us. They're gonna sing. And I want you actually to Selah with that verse. I want you to practice it right here and right now. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to guess there's some of you in this room, it's the first time you're going to slow down all week. Let yourself be in the moment. Take as long as you need. This is your chance to practice ceasing and yoking up with him and saying, okay, God, I'm here. Be with me and watch what he can do. So let me read it to us. Then you can take Selah moment. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light.